Okay, lecture 3 is going to focus on deterministic versus stochastic modeling. So here, I'm just going to remind you again, we already saw this a couple times now. We have different types of modeling, so we want to model x as a function of time. And the two types we were talking about was deterministic versus stochastic modeling. So the deterministic, we have the dx dt is equal to some function f of xt. So the process, the dx dt equals f of xt is just describing the process with respect to time. The non-deterministic, again, as some non-deterministic term. Okay, so the differences between deterministic and stochastic processes. Deterministic process, there's only one realization. So everything is clear in the model. You have one realization, there is no variation. So this is an example over here, this picture. You have a deterministic model which is shown in black here. This is what you would have expect in this, I believe this is an SIR model. So this is where you have some kind of disease spread. And so this is, I think this is the infected population. So this is, if you were looking at an infected population, what would happen in the deterministic model. So this is in black. Stochastic process, you have many realizations. Because you are adding randomness, so you have some kind of randomness. So let me go back up here to the previous slide. So here, remember, this is my deterministic process here, this very first part. My stochastic model adds this randomness in here. So this is like, think about if you were to use a random number generator. And you use the random number generator, the likelihood is you're not going to get the exact same random number each time. You will occasionally get the same number if you try it so many times. But so here we're adding some kind of random process. As we step through time, each time step you're going to actually have some kind of randomness added in. So what that plays out to when you're trying to simulate these models is that, so here if I look at this, so I might be here at this time step, and so I have some probability of transitioning and I might go down, whereas before I might be at the same time step and I might have gone up. So the probability of a transfer, you could sometimes transfer into one category versus another category. So you have this randomness. There's not just one realization, there are 1, 2, 3, infinitely many different realizations. So you have this ensemble of realizations, which lead to the idea of probability distributions. So we're going to need to understand a little bit about probability when we're talking about stochastic processes. Stochastic process is actually a type of probability model. Okay, so this was one of the models we saw. We saw a deterministic model for HIV. Very complicated model, has lots of parameters. Here we have all of our derivatives of all of our different variables with respect to time. On this side, we have functions of our variables. So all of these are functions of our variables. None of it is stochastic in nature whatsoever. There is no extra term added on at the end in order to get some kind of stochasticity. So here we have one simulation. So if we fit it with all the data, we get the simulation here in red. If we fit it with half the data, we get the simulation in green. If we run it again, we're going to get this exact same red curve with the exact same green curve. There's only one simulation. So here we talked about the PD system for energy efficient building. So again, we have PDEs, we have our variable, our V and our T. We do not have anything extra over here. No randomness whatsoever is added in. No stochastic term is added in. So again, with our weather model, we have a deterministic PDE system. We do have variability in this model, but we have variability because we change the parameters. The parameters can vary across some kind of space. And so we can add variability into a model by looking at the variability in the parameters themselves. So again, it's not a stochastic model by the definition of stochastic model. However, it does have some randomness in it. So this was the stochastic model for VRE that we talked about last time. So the difference here is, now look, we're talking about probabilities. What is the probability that I'm going to transfer from one category to another category? So now we have certain probabilities. It doesn't mean it's exactly going to happen, that I'm necessarily going to have this transition at this time step, and then if I run it again, I'm going to have that exact same transition. So the important thing to notice is that there's a probability of transition included in this model. There's more than one realization. I run it once, I get one result. I run it again, I get a different result. Stochastic differential equation. This is what's called a Wiener process. This is really, if you're coding this in the actual code for simulations, you have some kind of random number generator that actually generates what this process is here. So again, this has a probability. I remember what we talked about. If you have a random number generator and you run it once, you're going to get one number. You run it again, you're not likely to get the exact same number each time you run it. There is some probability that it will be the same, but you're talking again about probability. So again, we have a random process. Here we have our deterministic part. This we add the randomness in. So this is a stochastic differential equation. So there's other examples of stochastic models. So you go to Burger King in a mall. The wait time for service is very stochastic in nature. How long is it going to take for you to wait to get your food? How long is it going to take for you to wait to get an order? How long will it take you to wait for the bank teller at the bank? How long is it going to take to get your money? When you walk into the bank, how long is it going to take? What's the probability that you'll leave within 5 minutes? All of this is things that we're going to look at. So queue lines and probability of service. So those are other stochastic type models. Okay, so just a brief summary. Stochastic models involve probability of an event happening. There's more than one realization. Each time I run the model, each time I simulate the model, I'm going to get a different realization. So again, stochastic models includes probability in some way. Deterministic models do not have the probabilities included in the model. There's not that non-deterministic term. So each time you run a deterministic model, you get the same result. If I run it once, I'm going to get the same result as if I run it a second time. So when I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen in a deterministic model, I can interpret the exact same way. When I'm talking about interpreting a stochastic model, I'm talking about what's the probability of something happening. So now I have to talk about probabilities. So in the next lecture, I'm actually going to be going over MATLAB, and then I will be using MATLAB to talk about the first assignment. In the first assignment, you're going to analyze the differences between deterministic ordinary differential equation and the exact same model with a stochastic differential equation. So you're going to actually have a hands-on, you're going to simulate it using my code. You're going to, or actually Ed Allen's code from Texas Tech University. You will be using code to actually simulate what's going to happen if you use an ordinary differential equation versus what happens if you use a stochastic differential equation. So you will actually be able to see for yourself what the difference is in the results of the model, above and beyond what we've already talked about here in the videos.